Hey guys, it's me, Jardy, and this here is Frankie J. A lot of you, I'm sure, already know of him, but for those of you who are new to, perhaps, like the house scene and are just learning about people in the scene, can you tell me where you're from, Frankie?
Yes. So my name is Frankie, or Frankie J. I'm originally from a small city in the southwest of the UK called Bristol, but I've now been residing and living in London in the United Kingdom for the past 9 years, since 2010.
Cool. So from Bristol to London?
From Bristol to London,
wow,
yeah.
Cool. Okay. So how did you get into dancing?
So if I recall correctly, I started to dance around the age of like 9 or 10 years old. And the very first ever dance class I ever took was Irish dancing. And it was because my grandmother, she was the one that had first kind of introduced dance to me from a perspective of a male dancer, actually, because it was Michael Flatley from Riverdance that when I got to see the Riverdance production on VHS, I was super inspired by Michael, and that was like one of my first kind of like, I guess, like male influence figures in dance that really influenced me at that time when I was a kid. And I was like, okay, I just want to try Irish dancing. And then I went there and ended up realizing that wasn't for me. And then slowly got into contemporary dance. So I started off as a classical dancer, you could say. I was doing a lot of ballet and a lot of contemporary. And then I was then getting into, or I was starting to educate myself in street dance culture from about the age of 14, 15. And then was dabbling in many different styles, house being one of them. And then started to really kind of find my grounding in house dance in like 2012, which was when I then first started to get mentored by my mentor, which is Clara Bajado from Indie House. And from there on in up until today has been like my major focus, like house dance, house music, house dance culture, in amongst all of the other influences of dances that I've done over the years. So in total it's been like 18 years almost, I think I've danced.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. 18 years.
Yeah.
18 years. And how old are you?
I'm going to be 28 tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Damn, we're partying tonight then. Okay. Crazy. Well, happy early birthday.
Thank
you. That's so cool. So you were talking earlier before, like off camera, he was starting to talk about the scene in the UK, the dance scene in the UK, and it seems to be very, very rich. Can you tell me what you appreciate about your dance?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've kind of grown to learn more and more about, especially from the UK community, was its rich heritage in electronic music. In particular, and even coming from Bristol, like my hometown, there's a lot of musical influences and also very big contributions within the electronic music scene that comes from that city. People such as Massive Attack, also DJ Ronnie Size, and also has been one of the most innovative places of trip hop style of music, and through growing up in that scene, to then learning and then growing up into the London community and learning about the music that was coming from London and also from the UK, things like Broken Beat, and also like how the UK dancers took on US jazz music and then formed like things like jazz fusion, UK jazz fusion. Like all of these things have kind of slowly been kind of creeping into my life, like thoroughly, because of my interest in the music, because it's just so rich and it's just so full of so many different things and so many different aspects. And for me, like getting into like more clubbing and getting into kind of finding out like more about the UK DJs and also like who was coming into London and stuff at the time, this just made me realize like how lucky we were to be in London, because it is such a mecca for DJs to come through, and also for, you know, people that have an interest in electronic music, like within drum and bass, house, garage, techno, two-step, bassline, all these other kind of forms of music. Like we just have it on our doorstep, you know.
Wow.
And I really appreciate that I'm lucky enough to be in that predicament where I'm able to have that kind of access, and I think that's been very something like that has pushed and has taken my dance much more further because of being able to have that kind of access.
Oh wow! So it doesn't seem like, like a lot of scenes in the world are like still kind of growing. It doesn't seem like the UK needs any help with that. But I gotta ask you anyway. Like, where would you want, if it were up to you, like where would you want the scene to be in like 5 years?
I think I'm gonna say realistically, because I think like realistically, I would like it to continue the way that it is currently right now, but just become much more efficient and much more, grounded in all of the aspects that it's taking on at the moment. Like, people are really motivated to put on sessions, to travel, to put on nights, for the DJs and the dancers to collaborate more. Also, like, this is a little bit aside from just house specific, but like our industry community as well as our underground community are starting to become much more united, which plays a huge factor in our scene, because London also caters a lot for the commercial and industry scene too, as well as our underground community. And I think it's only until like recent years people have been really realizing or understanding to utilize one another, because in fact people started to realize we were just doing the same thing, but of course within our own niches. And I think I would really like to see that keep developing in 5 years' time, because that's just going to keep making the bonds within our community, and also the strength of our information and our consistency of where we're trying to lead all of our things to keep on going and to just keep on progressing. So hopefully just keep it the same, but just even more heightened, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, that's awesome. So that's a lot too.
Sorry.
No. It's not too much though. Like I like that. The thing. So like keeping it the same but progressing.
Yeah.
That's actually like something that we all strive for in our scene.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To not have it fall off and disappear.
Right. Because I think like the one thing, like the UK had a bit of a problem before. Someone might not agree with me saying this, but honestly, like how I've seen it through my own eyes is that for house dance especially, it's always been a little bit flaky in the sense of like things being really consistent, and then like you said, drop off a little bit, and then it kind of fizzles out, and then all of a sudden there's a resurgence of people getting back into it again, and then it kind of drops out. And even before I really got heavy into house dance and clubbing and really kind of like submerging myself in that culture in particular, like that's how I saw it from kind of an outside perspective. Like, house was never really like a dominant or really prominent style within our community. It was always like b-boying or hip hop freestyle or popping. But now, right now, like you were saying earlier, like house is really becoming this prominent style, and the community is really coming through and are really representing in a way where they're showing that we're active, we're being active, we're being really proactive in providing stuff for one another and providing stuff for the city and the community. And I think for me, it's just super dope. And I just really hope, in 5 years that just keeps continuing and just keeps unfolding.
Cool. Yeah. Actually, speaking of like prominence, would you say, can you name like people, would you be able to name people in your scene, in your region that, because, just gonna go off track here a little bit. Like a lot of people, what they know in the house scene is kind of like what's popular or what's famous, you know? And sometimes people get overlooked, but they're super talented and super dope, and they're actually the people that maybe are even holding the scene together in that particular region. Is there anybody you could name that you think like fits into that profile, where it's like they're not the most thrown out name out there, but they're like, wow, you know?
Yeah, there's definitely a few. Like the first foremost people like who come to mind when it comes to holding it down for like the UK house dance community, and have been really prominent figures in being able to create what we have up until today, is Clara Bajado, who is my mentor. for me, she wasn't the first person to showcase what house dance and hip hop dance was in the UK, but for me, I really consider her the first person who was being able to teach and to share and to educate on a professional level of what these things were about. And she was the one that came in and really shared her information with us all and changed the game, changed the scene like dramatically. And this was like starting back in like 2005, 2006 when she was traveling from Paris, because she's originally from Paris. Yeah. And then she started to make the actual final move to be in London and be based in London from like 2011, 2012. And then there's also Dilo, David Vilo, who's also from France. He's been one of the major contributors from the clubbing scene in particular, and also is the organizer of What You Got and our infamous house dance event, which is House Dance UK. And he was one of the first guys that put me on. Basically, he gave me the opportunity to judge one of the House Dance UK events, and has also been really like putting me on like so many different opportunities from when I was really first starting out. And like I give my utmost respect to him, because he's actually considered one of the very first people who was showcasing the house dance style like from New York in the UK, in London, with people such as Westy, Steve, who's now based in Amsterdam, and also Marcus Tucker from Illidale Flav. He was also one of the first people to really kind of showcase house dance in the UK in the way that we see it today. Also Shane Norman from France. And this was, this is going back like, I don't know, maybe 2002, 2003, when they first started to come into London. So it's been there for a long time. And also other people to mention like Kashmir Lees, Konoha Crew. Like he's really been dedicating his time and efforts into sharing hip hop and house. He was one of the first considered UK dancers to really spread the information, like much before me. Also Turbo, and Bly Richards, and many different people.
Wow.
Like there's been a few, and like I would say, all of them are on their own adventure and are still doing their thing now. But they're still shedding light every day of like what these things are, and are still trying to show people like where to go to, and are still handing out information on where to go to in their community and stuff. And what's kind of nice is, or what I love about the London scene in particular, is that these are all people that are not just from London, like they've come from other places, but have found a grounding or a comfortability of being in London and wanting to do something from there, which is really dope. So yeah,
that's really beautiful, actually. The connection that dance just like
absolutely,
really, and we both know this because we're on separate parts of the world here, and meeting up in Houston of all places. Oh man. So actually, I'd like to ask you. We just totally went through like the who's. Now I want to ask you the what. What inspires you to dance?
I think what inspires me to dance most of all is the people, as in like the people that have continuously shared and have showed their support in what I do and how I represent it. And I think that stems from all the way from family to also really close friends and also people like I haven't really even got to know on a really personal level yet, because I think my experiences now, like in meeting people, and because I travel so much now, like my experiences on meeting people is changing all the time, and also just the effect that someone has on me, whether it's a little time with them or a longer time with them, they have like of equal value. And like my grandma, for a fact, is one of the main reasons why I continue to dance, because she was the one that put me on it, and has been like my number one like motivation to wanting to just to prove to her and also to the rest of my family, like this was the thing I really am destined to do and really wanted to do, and I've always wanted to commit to that for her in particular. And she, she's not around now, unfortunately, but she still plays that huge power, or that huge kind of impulse in myself to continue to do that, because she was just naturally the person that really got me into this,
Wow.
And also I think like music is also like a huge huge contribution to why I dance, because music
Yeah.
inspires me.
Oh,
All
yeah.
types of music inspires me, especially house music. I love house music like to death, and yeah, it keeps me creative, and it keeps me wanting to try and innovate myself and to become more in tune with my body, and to feel like I can discover more in the way that I move, and also
Yeah.
I guess it helps me to really figure out who Frankie is more.
Yeah.
Like I like dancing
Yeah.
because it teaches me about myself,
Mm-hmm.
and it really teaches me about stuff that maybe I wouldn't necessarily find out about who I am through
Yeah.
something else, but
Yeah.
through dance
Yeah.
instead, you know. And yeah, like
Yeah.
I would say those things.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, that's very true. The process of self-discovery, like I've seen you grow throughout the years,
Right.
and I've seen your style develop, and like, wow, man, like very nice, very nice. Yeah, like before you were this energetic person
Yeah.
that really wanted it, and lately I've just seen you like kind of get a lot softer and more in tune
Exactly, yeah.
with like the inner you know what I mean? It's so crazy.
It
Like,
is.
It's like, yeah, I feel that.
It's
you know?
the more I'm becoming, I think, older, and the more mature I'm becoming as a human, as a male, as a adult, and everything else, and within the dance, I think naturally that's taking place in my movement and in my dance, and also, like, you know, I have some really wonderful people around me that also kind of challenges me in a way that makes me think about how I'm channeling my energy and the way I want to put things out, and also try to say without having to vocalize it. How do I say it with my movement? And you know, like, I think there's a time and a kind of what's the word? Like a vulnerability or a kind of self-indulgence that you have to have at some point in your life, where you have to trust yourself to go into those areas. You know,
Yeah.
to be a little bit more, softer, or a little bit more harder, or you know, to really kind of just be responsive to what you feel in the moment, or what you're feeling in that period of your life. And I really try and hone into that as a major factor as the result of the way I dance.
Yeah, your range is definitely broadened a lot. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's so awesome. Okay, so I want to ask you about actually. Can you tell me 3 of your, in your opinion, major accomplishments and why you value them?
Okay. I think number 1 right now, a lot of people have asked me this before, and I think it has to be my number 1, is when I was able to win the title of Summer Dance back in 2017 in Amsterdam. And I think for me, this was such a trivial event for me, and I've been going to this festival since 2012, like consecutively, like every single February to every single Summer Dance, so the winter edition and the summer edition.
Yeah.
And you know, after 5-6 years of consecutively going, and I was using this event as a way to kind of make a checkpoint for myself. It's like the checkpoint event of being like, all right, let me see where Frankie's at, you know, this time round, or let me see where I can kind of contend with the other people who have the same drive and the same passion as I do in this event. And you know, to take the title of it, and also with the people that I got to share with on that day, one being my partner Toyin, and also with another mentor of mine, Tony McGregor. It was just an honor. You know, it was such an honorable moment, and it was such a gratifying moment to, one, share it with those people, and to have my people there to support me and to witness it. And secondly, it was just it was a self-achievement to myself. I was like, yes, Frankie, you did it, you know,
that's
like,
cool.
And I rarely think like that. So, well, before I was rarely like that, like, could really be proud of myself for doing something like that, because I think naturally, as you may understand or know, like, you know, being an artist and being a dancer, when you're doing something as, like, you know, intensely with yourself like that, you can be really kind of self-critical.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And really be kind of judgmental with yourself about what you're doing and whether that's counted as successful or not. And and in that moment, that kind of just went out the window and was kind of like, dang, like, you did it, Frankie. You know, you really proved to yourself you're capable of doing that.
That's cool.
So that would be number 1. And I think also, you know, representing on the Juste Debout stage for the UK as well has been like a great achievement, like on various occasions now. Getting to share the stage again with my partner Toyin, and also, like, I think I'm just proud of where I've managed to be able to take my dance, And I think, you know, like over the past several years, getting to travel the world with dance and being able to kind of just be trusted with, and also being wanted to share my vision of how I see this dance and how I see this culture is a big achievement within itself for me. Just because there's so many people that are inviting me, like here in Houston, who are inviting me to come share a bit of how I see this thing, and how I do this thing, and that in itself is just like, it makes me proud, just because, you know, people see something in it, you know, and I'm like, oh damn, maybe people do like what I do, you know. And it's weird because again, it's that kind of getting over the self-criticism part of it too. But I do really take a kind of a gratifying feeling within that in itself. So those are my 3 things I would say.
Cool. Yeah, and you know what? I was actually there for the 2017 Summer Dance, cheering them on. So cool.
True.
And I could totally relate to the self-criticism thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's
man,
hard. It's
like
really
no matter
hard.
how many people tell you like you're the greatest, or like I'll be your groupie or something crazy like that.
That's
it's
it.
like in the end you're still judging yourself.
Absolutely.
And then, like, but you know, the process of growing up is all about like letting that go, and then just giving it to yourself, and like, yo, I did something, and I'm gonna own up to it, you know, like I'm proud of it, you know, and really believe it, you know, and not have it be ego where it's like a competition thing, but really like I did this for myself and I'm proud of it, you know.
That's it.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. Okay, so for you, how important is dance history?
Dance history is, for me, really important to, one, help you to solidify at the beginning stages of where you're at, a solid base. And then after you have that solid base, to then be able to fundamentally gather your own history in whichever respect you may want to take that in, by either including what you have already and using that as a way to create a new momentum in the direction you want to go, or, you know, just to kind of trust yourself in whatever is now going to come in your journey for that to be the history that you now create. But history, I think it's always good to be able to relate to a history, or as we say, a foundation of some sort, so that you're able to always make reference to that, to make reference to that, and to see how that relates to you in then the history you either create or the history you already have in yourself, you know. And it's important because that's what really helps to kind of strengthen then later on your self-identity within whatever it is that you may do, you know.
I agree. There's always this balance of there should always be this balance of knowing your history, yet knowing what you're gonna put into history as well,
contribute,
you know,
because
knowing just your history is just gonna turn you into a clone. You know what I mean? And then doing just the latter is just you're not actually part of it. You're not actually connected to it. You know. You've traveled all over the world, you know, doing your thing. Can you name like one city or region that has really inspired you in terms of dance?
There's been a few, but I think up until now, and I've said it a couple of times quite recently, I think Rio de Janeiro in Brazil was definitely a highlight. When I went there last year, in it was May or June I was there, I can't remember, but it was for the Rio H2K festival, and I was out there giving like some guest workshops, and the country itself, or the people in the country, are just so heartwarmingly inclusive in everything that they do, and they really come at you with like real love. Like, I think I was really overwhelmed with actually the love that they gave out. Not to say that nowhere else has given me the same, but I think it's within the Brazilian culture, within in the Rio culture maybe. I don't know if it's the same in other cities, but people just really made my time there just so amazingly comforting and just so homely. And also, you know, I was invited to go and visit one of the favelas in the city, which was just an experience in itself. Wow. It was terrifying, but at the same time really just like so heightening in so many ways because of the danger, but also because of the beauty that was within it too.
Yeah.
And I'm talking more from like not just the dance stuff, but just from, you know, the living conditions that I got to witness, and also just the appreciation for all the small and little things that we may take for granted here in the more, you know, cultivated areas or like sustainable areas. But there, like, they really take everything to heart and are just like super grateful for it. And it was just, I think for me, it was just a realization of being like, dang,
wow,
you know, like I have it good, you know,
Yeah.
and there's just some people that aren't fortunate enough to have it in the same way, but yet still make it work, and yet still don't show that struggle. They show the struggle, but they show the struggle through many other beautiful ways, and also through their love and passion through dance, which is what I really got to kind of receive when I was there.
Wow. You know, actually this is my own personal thing, but what I really like about everything that you talk about is that you always include people in it. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, people, not just money or fame or that event or something. Right. It's like it's people, you know, like how you brought up your grandma, you know, like whenever I talk about dancing, it's like, oh, I just wanted to be cool, you know. You know what I mean? Of course, it's changed since then, you know. It's a lot of it. It's like the connections are so great. But like for him to have like grown into that since the beginning, that's actually kind of
I mean,
that's kind of really cool.
It would just be, I think it would be really ignorant for me to say that I did all the growth myself, you know, or like like of course I did a lot of stuff myself, but it was through the influence of others, seeing other people do, you know, work hard at what they do, and also just what they contributed in the time and the effort into supporting me and making me get to the places that I've got to and the level that I've got to and stuff, and still now, you know, like it's impossible to say I did that all on my own, because it's not true. Which is why I'm so thankful for it, and I wouldn't want it any other way, because I feel that is going back to the whole purpose of what is my main purpose with dance, or like what gives me a reason to dance. It's because of that, you know. It's another way of me being able to be like, you know what, this is a thank you. This is just a way to say, you know what, thank you for everything you're giving me and what you've given to me so far. I'm going to try and prove to you that this was not wasted. You know, your efforts were not wasted, and that I want to, you know, show that I can achieve those things that, you know, I had maybe wanted to promise them. So it's the main reason.
I love that, man. That's so cool. All right, so for people who have now fallen in love with Frankie J, how would we get in touch with you?
Cool.
Like, you know, what's the best way? Email, Instagram, Facebook.
I have email. All my email information is on Facebook, via Instagram. I go by the name of Frankie J Plague. Plague being my dance crew, my dance collective, the people I represent. But Frankie J, or the Red Househeads, as my new alias that a lot of people call me by now. But you can find me under Frankie J Plague on Instagram, on Facebook, and everything is there pretty much.
Cool. So, great. All right, last thing. If you were to give one very inspiring tip to upcoming dancers, what would it be?
I would say, kind of similar to what we said before, I think, because it's something I feel like I'm very in touch with right now, is to not be too stuck by the foundation or the history or something that has been given to you, but to trust yourself to continue wanting to connect yourself with what you have to bring to the thing that you're, and this is not just dance related, this is also just in whatever you who's watching this are into or are trying to become successful in. And it's being able to bring your identity into it, and don't be afraid to feel like you're going to be wrong by doing something wrong by doing that, because I think for me, I was always nervous to feel like I was breaking a rule, or that I was not following the boundaries of the subject that I was trying to fall heavily into. But you know what, there was just a moment where I said to myself, you know what, I have to be a little bit gutsy and just show the world who I am within the thing that I'm doing. Otherwise, I'm not ever going to really find that self-gratification, and also just kind of, what's the word? Kind of, sense of being, sense of really knowing who you are in what you do. And so, for anyone that's watching this, be you, 100%, 1,000% in what you do.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
It's it's really, it's when you allow yourself to do what you're feeling inside.
Absolutely.
That's when you put out something that the world actually needs.
Yeah.
Not just spitting out something that you read in a magazine or learned from a teacher.
Right.
We want you,
and it's
yeah.
not cliche.
There's a reason why it's cliche.
There's a reason why it's cliche. Exactly.
So true.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thank you, Frankie.
Thank you.
Thank you for
so
all
much.
that. That was really inspiring and beautiful, man.
Thank you very much.
All right, cool. And until next time, all right, guys. All right.
See ya.
Peace.